Hey, good morning, everyone. How you all doing? Welcome to the 22nd episode of the podcast Africa, the next big thing. And you guys know the mission of this podcast is to help African entrepreneurs become influent leaders by promoting out your brand, your culture, and sharing your success stories so that your youth will get inspired and you will easily be connected with a lot of foreign investors. So the guest that we are having today, he's from Ghana. His name is Jacques Boanerges. He's a great man. He's the CEO at the company Niqao. It's a fintech located company in Ghana. He's also an MIT Bootcamp alumni and is passionate about technologies and how to use them so that he can solve a lot of problems. So as you guys can see that today topic is about the smart cities in Africa, because see we everywhere, even in India, in USA, we are moving towards the smart cities. We are and there are a lot of projects that are coming. So that's what we are going to discuss with Jack today. But before that, Jack, is an entrepreneur. He's also in training in MEST Africa, which is a pan African training program, seek fund, and an incubator for technology entrepreneurs in Africa. And this training provides critical skills training in software development, business, and communications, which will help to build a world class startup business. So let's not waste the time, and here comes Jack. He's live with us. Hey Jack, how are you, man? Jack, you are muted, please.
Oh, okay, sorry. Yes. Yeah. Hello, Chirag. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing great, man. How's everything? How is Ghana?
Everything is fine. Yes. From
It's
Ghana.
fine, huh? Oh, amazing, amazing, Jack. So, Jack, I read a lot about you, and thank you so much for your valuable time that you come here. I know you are a very very busy person, but thank you so much. So, Jack, just
Thank you
before
very
we
much.
move to the topic, yes, thank you. So, before we just move to the topic, I just want to know a little bit about yourself, your background, your education. How did you get started? What was your childhood like? Yes.
Okay, sure. So I was born in Cote d'Ivoire,
Ah,
and
okay.
I've been like I was in a very loving family, like a very strict father, a very flexible mother. So like I had balance, and I was, let's say, groomed into like a mindset of trying to find solutions for problems. My father is an engineer, and
Good.
very early in life he taught us like principles of like how to be like someone who has values, like he's also a very religious person, so he taught us like all those elements. So I would say that my childhood was like a very interesting experience, like as I was learning like is what are the things that are important about life. Okay, then so I went to high school. I did like a scientific like curriculum. I had also great let's say results, like great support from the family, and that was, let's say, a summary of like the childhood. Okay, and how things happened. Yeah.
Oh, amazing. Oh, that's really amazing. So, Jack, my question to you, so what were the challenges in your journey? Like, when you just tried, okay, that yes, you want to, like, you told me, like, okay, you love to solve problems. Since childhood, you always try to find some solutions to that. And your bio also says that. But what were the challenges in doing that? And what was a tipping point? Let's say, for example, every parent want that their child should just have a good job, study well, get a
Yeah.
good job, and
Yeah.
so where this entrepreneurial journey started, like what was the tipping point?
So the tipping point, I would say, when I was a child, okay, my father is a very academic person, and my path was like straight. I wanted to like go to school, like get like diplomas or like um certificates, and then go and get a job and like do some scientific things like in the laboratory or something like this. Um, and that was the journey my father wanted me to have. But as I got to university, I think that when like the shift happened, because my CEO at the university was a very interesting guy who was an entrepreneur. So he was like the CEO of the university, but had an entrepreneurial mindset. And this was clearly seen in like all the things. His name is Alain Kaposhishi. So he was like one of the most influential like young person on the earth, like in 2005. And his mindset, like he tried to fuse like his mindset into the training program. So we had a lot of activities, a lot of like projects, like entrepreneurial activities aside whatever concept we were learning for school. So because of this like experience, I so from childhood I wanted to solve problems. As I go like through like it's Africa, so anywhere you can see people having problems. You can see gutters
Yeah,
that are stuck, you can see people who are very poor, you can see like very challenging things. And as I was going through, I was like, what can I do to help? What can I do to help? And I was studying like computer network telecommunication. I was trying to figure out like how can I come up with something that will help. And this man, like, so as he's been like he's still a mentor, he taught me like that I need to come up like with connections between things, and make like use those connections to let's say bring up solutions to help people. I shouldn't be like focused on like going just to like in an office and then working there. And I think that's where the shift happened. From all this experience, I captured like let's say this desire to impact more people if I build a company rather than me just working for a company. Yeah. So that's how
cool.
everything happens. Yeah.
Amazing, amazing, So, Jack, the topic like today, it's we are going to talk a lot about smart cities. And so my
Yeah.
first question to you on that is, what are the list of smart cities in Africa? Do you think it's actually possible in Africa to build a smart city? And are there any smart cities in Africa? I just want to know because I really have no idea, me and my viewers. So just tell us that.
Yeah, sure. So I I think before I touch this point, so I'll just I'm working with like a company currently, like which like is Niqao Technologies, right? But Niqao
Okay.
Technologies is
Yeah.
into finance. Um, I want just to let's say give like a clue about like how it's happened that smart cities and finance. So basically, it's during uni that I discovered um smart cities. Okay, I've got like I was in a laboratory and I had a course about like Cisco Internet of Everything, so IoT, and I was like very interested in what this is able to do. Then later on, I got to join like a competition with Huawei Technologies, and I was selected as like one as part of the 10 laureates. And then we went to China to see like let's say smart, let's say cities or applications of smart cities in like at Huawei headquarters. And when the connection happened, I was like, okay, what I want to do is to help African countries to have sustainable development using smart cities as a tool. And when I was in that journey, I got to hear about MEST as a program because I've realized that I was afraid to take the jump, like to start a company. And I wanted to figure out a lot of things. So I joined MEST as a program to allow me to get to learn more about, let's say, the business side, like learn to overcome my fears, learn to be a better person, okay, and a person who understands better business. Then I can jump, and that's how. So this step is, let's say, a transition for me to get to the next level, which will be like, let's say, actually building like that IoT or smart cities concept. But so just to come back to your question, in Africa, there are lots of, let's say, initiative of smart cities. Okay, some
Okay.
examples of smart cities that have been built or that are, let's say, already running to some extent. One can be like the example of like South Africa. Okay, um,
Hmm.
you have like Cape Town. Um, you have like some cities in Kenya. You have some cities in Egypt. You have some cities even here in Ghana. Like a lot of government, lot of African, let's say, countries are trying to take smart cities initiatives. Okay, and here is like about your question on can smart cities be built in Africa?
Yes.
I believe like there are a lot of, let's say, the concept of smart cities is not like set in stone yet. The concept is not figured out fully. But I like one
Yes.
definition, um, which says, so that's from the UK Department of like Business and Innovation, Business Innovation and Skills. They say the concept is not static. There is no absolute definition of a smart city, no endpoint, but rather a process or series of steps through which cities become more livable and resilient, and therefore able to respond more quickly to change. Okay, so here's my perspective from this definition. I'm not thinking of like, can Africa build smart cities? But I'm thinking of like, why should Africa think about smart cities? Okay, so now I'll try and explain what I mean. The population of Africa will double like in um 2050. Okay, that will be more than the quarter of the population of the whole world, and all those population will be living in cities. We already have like lack of infrastructures, we have like so many like difficulties and things we have to handle to make like cities more livable, resilient, and be able to address or to solve challenges. So my perspective is that we can use like smart cities as a tool to improve the efficiency of the development process. That way, because the number, like the quantity of challenge we have is um, is like we have a lot of challenges. That approach or like that intention can trigger more, let's say, initiatives and creativity to eventually figure out how to implement smart cities in Africa. Okay, so I do believe that we can do it if we think about the why we want to do it. Okay, yeah.
Yes.
But like, I mean, they are, let's say, like authorities or voices like from Nokia, from Huawei Technologies, and from like other like organization who are, let's say, positive about the fact that we can eventually build smart cities in Africa. Yeah,
Cool. So, I totally understood, what you said, Jack, and I completely agree to you, with you on this. So, I just want to know now few things. Let's say, for example, like too many Africans today, they cannot even access the technology. They don't know how to use it. They don't
yeah,
even. I've seen like they don't want to learn as well. So they need, so how do they will adopt smart cities now? This is my question. Like we are moving into digital now. Everything is we are transforming digital and all, and then but the
yeah,
way that they are working is still the old fashioned. When you go to them, you approach them something, they say, oh man, give me something, give me something, give me something extra, give me this, give me that. So do you think that this
yeah,
smart city is actually implementable in Africa? Yes, South Africa, I understand. South Africa is something which they think exceptional. There are a lot of American investments in South Africa and all. But what
yeah,
about this West Africa? Here the mindset is little different. They only talk about, give me some money to eat, chopping, chopping, that's all. You know all these things. So do you think when this thing's
yeah.
so small and so narrow and just for the short term, so how will they enter to the world of technology and build smart cities?
Okay, thank you very much for your question. I like it, and I like the mindset part you put into the question. As I started the
Yes.
journey, like as I was studying, like because I wrote my master thesis on this, like on smart cities. As I was working on it, I realized that, let's say, the core of the problem is not much about the technology in itself, but it's about the mindset of the people. So the reflection was a perspective of, okay, um, the truth is the smart city in itself doesn't change people, but the concept or the principles you put behind are what changed the people. And like from the definition I used, like it's a process. Okay, so my reflection is this: I came from a perspective of we are developing countries. Okay, so developing countries have a set of challenges that can cut across all developing countries. And my mind is that we need to set a target, which is like to become developed country. And
Yeah.
as I was thinking through it, I realized that the main difference between the two states is the mindset of the people.
Yes.
I started like reading more about like developing countries and like developed countries and how to transition. Okay. So I don't see like the smart cities are like the items themselves as what will make it happen, but the process of transitioning from like developing countries to developed countries. Now, there's always a mindset shift that need to happen and a mindset shock. Okay, so reading, for example, the story of like Singapore, like from third to first, how everything happens, I could see that there's a shock that will happen. But something I am confident with is that ages after ages, technology has been used to change the way people live. So Africa, yes, doesn't have much infrastructure, doesn't have like a lot of things. But when cars came, let's say, as when car came as a technology to, let's say, improve how we move or how we move from A to B, like as like to uh, let's say transportation, we eventually adopted it because that was something that would be important or that would be helping. So whenever that understanding is clear, the change happens. The second thing is that there's a concept called dominant design. So whenever technology
Hmm.
happen, it's like the cost of production is very high because there's only one person who, let's say, have the best understanding of how to produce it. But over time, as the technology, like the dominant design is understood and people are replicating it, the cost of production drops, which makes it more available. So today, for example, smart cities or like IoT at some point in time was like a very expensive thing to implement. But today, even with Arduino, with like small like tools, you can come up with like innovative solutions, even at a small scale. Okay, what I believe is that if we are able to figure out the processes and the right approach, even at a small scale, scaling it won't be a problem. Yes, because let's say other countries have been able to do that, like to make that transition happen from developing to developed countries. So that's the perspective I have about smart cities. So yes, it's difficult. Yes, it might take time, but I think it will definitely make the process of transition faster for developing countries in general and like African countries.
Oh, amazing. I value your, I appreciate your openness, and I value the one thing that you have just mentioned, all the things. Amazing, amazing points and insights that you have just, mentioned. So my next question to you is simple, so according to you, what is the future of smart cities in Africa? Do you think, future of smart cities in Africa, I mean to ask about, West Africa more, countries like
West
Nigeria,
Africa, yeah,
Ghana,
yeah,
Sierra
sure.
Leone, all these countries. Do you think is there a future, and how much time is going to take?
So is there a future? um when I see problem, I see opportunities. Okay, and smart
Yep.
cities, I see it as a tool to enable cities or countries to get to transition and be developed, to be more efficient. Because like, I mean, basically a developed country is like more efficient in whatever they do with their resources, is like much more organized, is able to perform better, to increase to reduce the time to deliver administrative document and everything. And I see that those problems in African countries. And because those problems exist, I see an opportunity of like making it happen. And it won't be an easy process. Again, I completely agree with that. And I've not figured out like all the pieces. But what I believe in is that because of the potential of the problem, the potential of the solution is much more higher. Because developed countries today, for example, when they implement smart cities, like let's say applications of smart cities, you have like some in Spain, Barcelona, you have like some in China, like in some cities in China, and those application allow them to be able to perform better. But the gap or the improvement in performance that will happen if you are able to apply this in a developing country will be crazy more far more better, because you would see that okay, there's a shift, like a real shift. Okay, so I do believe that the future of smart cities in Africa and developing countries in particular is great. So the potential is amazing. I know that for like at the moment, because of like the investment to, let's say, build up a smart city environment, most of the African countries like are trying to deal with, let's say, uh, what would we have, as you said, like, oh Charlie, I need something to eat, I need. Most African
Yes.
countries have this mindset, and I understand, but I do believe that it's more of like finding the right approach. Okay, um eventually, like from bottom up or from top bottom, but I see a potential. Okay, how long it will take, um as I said, like the technology in itself is not what I see as final, but much more of the process. So transitioning from developing countries to developed countries, this
Hmm.
transition takes like hundreds of years sometimes. This transition takes like thousands of years, 500 years. But some countries were able to successfully do that transition in 50 years, in like less than a century. So when you take like example like Israel, example like Canada, example like Egypt, like those countries were able to, let's say, go through that process in a shorter time. And I believe that when the right approach is found in, let's say, 50 years, 50 years ahead, um, we could see like a different face of Africa, which is
Yeah.
transformed and like have, um, let's say, the full, let's say, capacity of deployment of a smart city. Yeah.
Oh, amazing, And yes, a great great point that you have mentioned. And I also believe like yes, this should happen. And this can only happen, when you think for the long term, when you think for the society, when you think for the
Yes.
continent, when you're
Yes.
gonna do that, the things will, move great. And that's the reason, why the dollar is getting so high in some countries, in Ghana, in Nigeria, because of such people only. Because they believe in,
Yes.
because corruption, bribe, and all these things. So which is
Yes.
sad. They should think for the long term. If they're gonna do it, they are going to make it. So Jack, my next
Yes.
question to you is, now it's a personal question, like where do you see yourself after 5 years, and are you also open to collaborate, like what you are doing currently, what are your future plans? Just want to know a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure. So as I said, like what the business I'm doing now is let's a transition, okay? Because I needed to flesh out and to have more understanding about business, and also learn how to overcome my fear of starting something, okay? And I definitely got this learning from the MEST experience. I also attended like the MIT Bootcamp, which also allowed me to have a deeper shift, right? So all these experiences were part of my process, as in getting the experience. My next step is though, so I'm still in the learning process of like the transition, as I like as I said, like that's the most important for me, not the technology in itself, but how to transition. Okay, so the transition from developing to developed countries. So in the next 5 years, what I am working on is that I want to be able to flesh and figure out like what will be, let's say, the principles I would start from. Okay, so because you can't like solve everything at once. Okay, you need to know like where you will start from. So that's the most important thing for me now. As soon as I figure out that part, then I can launch like something and start fixing the problem from that angle, from that perspective. And as it grows, I can learn and figure out more problems. Yeah. So
Yeah.
in like 2 years time, want to figure out and flesh out this understanding, eventually take like an MBA course, um to also get like more connections, to get more like let's say network, because that would be critical and important, extremely important, to be able to build like such a huge thing. And as I get to that place, launch something.
Yeah.
um I know it will be like a trial and error a process, but I'm okay to go through that process. And then after 5 years, like I mean, having something that is usable, that African countries can try and see a real impact. Yeah. And from that point, I would now like let's say try and scale and like go higher in whatever I'm trying to do. Yeah.
Oh, you can easily do it. I'll wish you all the best. You are such a passionate guy,
Thank
and
you.
I know you will make it. There is no doubt
Thank
about
you
it.
very much.
So, yeah. So, Jack, my next question to you is, what advice do you want to give to a youngster between 18 to 25 who is watching this episode? You yourself is a youngster, but there are youngsters, there are other youngsters, like most of the time, they are lazy, they are distracted. So, what advice do you want to give them?
Okay, so like today I'm 28 years old, okay, but if I could give an advice like to a youngster, like someone who is like let's say 18 or like 19, or me myself when I was younger, okay, I'd say you need to um to value your time. It's good, like I mean it's an easy thing to just get like um let's say overwhelmed by whatever happens around you, and like try to enjoy and like spend time or waste time in quote, like I mean doing stuffs that might not be exactly with like what you want to achieve. Okay, so you need to take that step back and value your time and build yourself. Okay, I think one of the most important thing that allows you to get to achieve something in life is to build yourself up. So like building like a strong character, building
Yeah.
strong values, um, learning like more about yourself, like who you are, how you do things. When you figure out those things, most of the time you find answers to questions about where you want to go and why you want to go there. And when it's figured out, you have like this inner strength to push and to continue, even when things are hard, even when you don't understand, even when you don't see where you're going to, you can still push. Yes, that's what I can
Yes.
give like as an advice to me if I were younger. So to all the people who
Yeah.
are younger than me, that's what I can say.
Amazing. Amazing advice. And so, Jack, my last question to you is, yes, we have to end this podcast. Like, what do you want to appeal to the investors of North America, Europe, and India, even, Dubai, all the, because they are very big investors. Like, how big is Africa market when it comes to investment?
Well, the truth is, um as your podcast says, Africa is the next big thing. Okay,
Yeah.
it's true that the potential, like now, as in like what we have as like direct return on investment, might not be as high as what you have in Japan, for example, in USA, for example, in China, for example. But China 50 years ago, or China 60 years ago, or China 100 years ago had a state. And today, China is a different state.
Yeah.
There's a trend. Okay, it's obvious. Like the youngest population in the world will be in Africa.
Yes.
Africa will have like more than like a quarter of the population of the whole world. And Africa has a lot of challenges, which means a lot of opportunities as well. So I'd say um, the time to, let's say, position yourself and be ready for the shift is now, basically. Because when um, like I have this quote I like. It's when opportunity comes, it's too late to prepare. So
Yeah.
I believe that the we have to prepare now to be able to take advantage of the opportunity of like the future of Africa. So
Yeah.
I don't see like the Africa I see with my eyes like today, like the poverty and thing. Just on the side, I'm working as a consultant for a company currently, like an NGO, which is into road safety. Um, and I've been traveling to different African countries. Like I decided to accept this work, which is like quite far from like the IT and all the like things,
Yeah, yeah.
because I could get um, that they are trying to change the mindset of a population. And when I joined them, I could understand how they are doing it. I'm
Yes.
capitalizing all the learning and bringing them back into my project. But as I was going through different countries, I could see lack, I could see poverty, I could see problems. But at the same time, I could see a young population which is determined to change the narrative, to make Africa better, to make their country better. And this cuts across all the countries that I've visited, just to give an idea of like the potential. And I believe that those investors needs to pay attention to whatever like the trend is, and start investing in Africa. I know a lot are
Yeah.
already doing it, but I would
Yes.
encourage more people to do it. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So thank you so much, Jack. And it was amazing, to have you over here on the podcast. And I hope my viewers, they have got a lot of insights from you that you have shared. So thank you so much, Jack, for coming. And to all the viewers, I'll see you next week with another episode of the podcast. Thanks, Jack.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye.